We're starting with that Hashem B'Shat Matzliach. Baruch Hashem. We're here back on Sunday, the first day of the week of Parashat Shabbat Yitro B'Shat Matzliach tonight, Sunday night already, which is 12th of the month of Shvat. So we were discussing with all those types of mashkin, and we already ended off last week, if you remember, gentlemen. Dipping cookie into milk would be constituting that you have to wash your hands, because it's very common in America to dip full cookies into the bread, into the water, whatever, liquid milk, or into, what's his name? And we said milk is one of those, right?
What about when you didn't touch like the liquid?
It doesn't matter. No, milk is not one of them, by the way. Do people dip cookies into the coffee?
Yeah.
Coffee,
Coffee
tea.
with milk, but coffee is with milk.
Doesn't matter, but the coffee is water. Milk is not one of the seven.
I was about to do it, but I
Why it is?
Halal? Oh, yeah, sorry. Halal. Yes. Okay. So yeah. So you have a problem. Anytime you want to, what's the name? Dip anything into the food, that's where we left off. Now, what about honey?
Yeah, exactly. Dip anything into honey, you don't touch it.
What's that? You hear what's going on here? Leo wants to say, wait a minute, I'm taking that apple, a piece of apple, right? The juice of an apple, by the way, when you slice it, as long as it was dry, right? So when you slice it, the juice of the apple does not make you, the tuma does not transfer. Only there is liquid that was outside, chitzoni, from the apple.
Oh, so when you wash the apple on the outside, you gotta make sure it's dry then.
Well, that's right. But if you don't wash your hands, if you didn't wash your hands, you have to make sure it's dry.
Well, you gotta do that.
Right, but if you did the tila, you could make it wet. Eat it as much as you want. Enjoy it.
Yeah.
Now, the problem is now, what happens is, Lior says a very good nikudah. I don't understand. What's the problem with honey? Who puts honey on their hands? Who's dipping his hands in the honey? Right? We said honey here is one of them. Dvash, right? Halal. Dvash, shemen, dvash. Okay, halal, yain. So, what's going on? Beautiful question. That's why there is actually a very, very meticulous and very long Mishnah Berurah. It's about 20 lines. So you know it's important. What Lior is asking is a very important question. So let's see. Dvash. First rule is, what kind of dvash? Do you know that there's different types of honey? So the most prevalent one, the one that the Torah talk about, who knows what that is? Dead honey. Says Mishnah Berurah here, we're not talking about date honey. It's talking about devorim, velo shel tamarim. Specifically, it's not. It has to be a honey that's produced by bees, honey bees, and not or shel min acher, and not from the figs or any other format that they create honey from. So basically, the bottom line is
not from a fruit.
Anything else, nothing else, only from the bee honey, the bees. Katvu poskim. So now, what's going on here? Nobody's dipping his fingers inside there with the honey. So he says like this: Kol hamashkin shenikreshu ben al yedei bishul ben al yedei tzina ad she'en bahem tofeach al menat leatpiach lo hashav mashkin. So he says like this: if any of this elements that we said just now, we said wine, we said dvash, shemen, chalav, all those seven, tal, dam, mayim, right? If you're cooking all these drinks, you cook them, and they are solid, that if you should touch them, your fingers will not make like this. When you touch an item, your finger touches something else. So if your finger touches it and touches something else, and that something else does not become wet, the halacha is already changed already. The halacha is, it has to be that when you touch with your finger, that whatever you're touching, that it will be, you could affect another thing to become wet. Right? She'en bahem tofech al menat leatpiach. Meaning that not just what you touched, obviously what you touch is going to make something else wet, right? Because that's only reality. It says not that, the other thing that you touch has to make other things wet.
So, good example like apple and honey.
Not apple, hold on a second, not done it yet. Forget about honey for a second. Like, for instance, I put my finger into a cup of water, right? How much water do I take? Minute. Now I go and I touch something else. Very good. That something else gets wet. But the question is, does that make something else wet? That's the question we're talking about here. So the rabbi said, if you did any that you cooked, that once it's in the cooking state, that will not make, like, well, let's say, for instance, water, yes. If you take a hand and you put on, let's say, on the table, here, on the table. Now something else touches that, becomes wet. Because you had water there, right? Good. But let's say if something else, let's say blood. Same thing, blood. You took a blood and you put it and you do that, right? Okay. Now, what if the blood is boiled and it's hard, like honey? So now, if you take you touch the blood, you put it over here. The moment that you touch the table, it's not gonna have enough strength to make the other thing wet anymore. This because the what's his name? Maybe the blood will be thick. It's much thicker. So that's what Mishnah Berurah says. The Chachamim told us if it's something that becomes thick enough that will retroactively make another thing item wet. This is not included in those 7. So basically, what we're saying is like this. So now you come to eat something, and one of this wine or shemen or chalav, it's so thick that it will not transfer. That will make the third item to make something wet. There, you don't have to wash your hands to eat it before you eat it. Okay. It's like where do we go? We'll buy, let's say what is it, Syrians or somebody has that
thick like honey.
They have some kind of dish with milk dish. What is it called? Something that's become hard. What is it? Sahlab. What is that?
I'm not sure. I cannot tell you.
You don't know that
The
dish?
one with the noodles?
No, it's milk dish, like a sahlab something. It becomes like a jelly. Oh, jelly. Chaladetz, skажем. Chaladetz. Pacha. Chaladetz. We Bukharians, we make out of knee bone. We make soup. Malabi, right? So let's say that malabi, it's thick.
I don't know if you're okay.
L'choira, that will not have that effect. That effect will not make something else wet when you're eating that, you don't have to wash your hands. Because it does not, so that's the condition, he says. Okay, but let's continue. Let's see what he tells us. כתבו הפוסקים, אוקיי? ושוב בין על ידי צנעה עד שאין בהם תופח עמד להפיך. לך חשוב משקף, ודעת התוספות שאפילו חזרו ונמוכו אחר כך זולת יין או מים, והוא הדין חלב שנקבע בכך שחזרו ונמוכו השווה משקה. So he says, according to Tosfot, that most poskim already say that if once it's changed this liquids, any of these liquids, you cooked it in a certain way, that it became hard, and then it became melted. So according to this poskim, that's it. That it loses its status of the mashke anymore. You don't have to wash your hands with whatever you eat it. So even let's say wine, you had wine today. You could put a little liquid into the wine, it becomes hard. I had this in the hospital. I remember they give me make kiddush on that because they were afraid for the drink. It's like a jelly. Yes, jelly. So now, what happens if it turns around the jelly? If it goes away the jelly? So according to Tosefot, if it goes away the jelly, now it gets its status back as a mashke that you must wash your hands. But according to the Chachamim over here, according to many poskim, once it loses its status from liquid, it goes into jelly. That's the best name I was looking for. It becomes jello or something, and then it goes back to liquid. It will not. You don't need to wash your hands again. That's according to the poskim, not Tosfot. ולפי זה, מרקחת המטוגנת בדבש, אם הדבש שעליה קרוש עד שאין בו תופח על מנת להטפיח, לכולם מותר לאכולו בלא תטילה. So what happened is that you took an item, what do? We cook apple with sugar, but what they do is they put honey, and they cook it in a way that the honey becomes hardened on the item. The honey becomes hardened on the item. So he says in that case, if the honey is surrounding the item and it becomes hardened, you don't have to wash according to all the deod. But if the honey is not strong, by the way, honey will have the element of the third item you touch. The honey will give over for the other person to get wet. For instance, you took out your finger honey and you put it over here. Now I want to see you touch the honey. Nobody's going to touch it. Nobody wants to get dirty. Right away it's going to go on you. So there you see the honey has that, but there is a way that once the honey becomes hardened, it will never go back to its original state. So there's a machloket.
Honey gets hard?
I
You
guess.
just leave it there exposed.
No, it was cooking. It was after some kind of process. There was some addition to the process that was cooking it that make it harden. Once it's hardened, right? So he says over here,
It becomes sugary.
כאילו על ממותר לאוכלו בלא דצילה. ואם הדבש אינו קרוש, so now, but honey is not liquid. Honey it's like a very hardened item that It's not. It's
Like
very
a
thick.
paste. It's
So
almost
he
like a
says,
paste.
so Data Taz the Rashim Mashke. So according to Taz, yes, it is liquid, just like Shulchan Aruch. You see, Shulchan Aruch also holds that honey is included in that process. With Data Magen Abraham the La Rashim Mashke Ro. He says no. Magen Abraham says no. Honey is not included here. Should not be part of the list because of your question. כיוון שעומד הדבש הזה לאכילה ולא למשקה. Because you can't name here as a Leor say, what are you talking about? Honey is it's not a drink. Nobody drinks honey. It's not standing for liquidity. It's not used for its liquidity. It's used for its character of, I guess, taste of sweetness. Yeah.
Or refuah.
Huh? Refuah, whatever. But it's not for drink. Shem ochel alav. Yes, it has a name of food on it, bachlav. Right? What's the praise? Dvash. That's the. Now I understood. I was bothered. What's going on? What's the difference? Which honey? So now you understand. Eretz Israel is mishubachat on what? Hazavat chalav dvash. On what chalav dvash? Eating the honey. Over there, so the honey itself has to be edible. So lechoira tamarim. That's why tamarim are not in this rule. That's why because I guess tamar is a fruit which is edible. It now turns into honey, which is also edible. So maybe there they specifically said make the bee honey, because the bee honey is not it's not coming from something that's edible.
Tamar is
It's
dates?
poly what?
Tamar is dates?
Yeah, dates. So what is they bee from poly or something? Whatever they collect, right? So that the leaves that the bees collect honey from, that's not what's his name? Pollen, you're right. So that's shakol, and it's already liquid anyway. So lechoira, that's why it specifically has to be bees fly honey, not from the other way, not from the any other fruits. Says there is a difference here. What? The im kana dvash v'adayin hu me'orav b'sha'ava. Oh, so now what is the honey? Where is the honey is fermented? Where is it sitting by the bees? In wax, beeswax, right? They create this whole setup over there, like houses, and the honey is stored there. So he says like this: if you're buying with those beeswax, the honey still mixed with it, וחתיכו על מנת והיתיכו על מנת כן כדי לטגן בו, right? You bought it of what? In order to cook with it. אם כן, מעולם לא היה עליו שם משקה, כיוון שחתיכו בשביל אכילה. So now, the beeswax, if the beeswax is mixed into the honey, he says, that is never used for liquid. People, I never saw somebody put beeswax into their tea, do you?
I used to eat it sometimes.
Eat it, yes, but not put it on bread, maybe.
I put it into tea.
Into tea also, beeswax? Yeah.
I've done it.
Baruch Hashem, you
But it
special.
was for refuah. It wasn't
Okay,
for,
we're coming from special places. Normal people, Americans, you know, let's go. You know the what's his name? Liquid. What do you call this? Delicate nature people. That's Shulchan Aruch. Mr. Berurah is talking about that. So he says no. When you buy beeswax honey, you don't buy it for drinking. You're only buying it for what? You're buying it for cooking with it or whatever it is. ואין צריך נטילת ידיים. So there, when you're going to eat beeswax honey, even with beeswax, together with beeswax, you don't have to make netilat yadayim when you're eating it, because it's specifically designed for food. Even though it's from the bees, not from
if you put it on what?
If it's mixed with the beeswax, and you're eating it.
If it's in the beeswax?
With beeswax.
Together with
Yeah,
beeswax.
nobody's going to tell you beeswax.
But if let's say there's a thing that says that if you put in the morning a drop of honey on your pinky, you eat it for good memory.
Good. So that's the rule. That's what he's telling you. He's telling you, okay, to be yotze, everybody you should wash before it. Anyway, you're washing in the morning. But it's not talking about this. If you're eating it with mitzvahs, you don't make what's his name. You don't have to make netilat yadayim. אבל הקונה דבש שכבר מהותח מן העושים,
After you
משקה.
wash, you can't touch anything.
What?
Let's say I washed. I dried my hands with
No,
water.
you can't touch anything that's tameh. You have to be very cautious. If you know, we already discussed that. Remember, we discussed the whole thing. Question is, if you're coming to daven mincha, do you wash your hands right before mincha? What about if you came out of the house? We discussed this before, right? As long as you know that your hands did not scratch inside your armpit or inside there, your neckline, or inside your back, or whatever it is,
Under the kippah
that's
is
not a
also-
problem.
under the kippah is
Kippah
considered-
is not so. That's not a problem.
under the kippah.
Kippah, because we have hair over there, you're not touching your scalp.
And,
Me
and
will be a
this part-
problem on a certain days after I shave. Yeah.
And this part,
Yes.
Up to the
So
shoulder?
66%. So I guess 2/3. Anything, right? So 2/3 you're allowed because you put it on tefillin. Anything above that, yes. So people, come in with a undershirt or whatever into the show, they have a problem with that. Yes. So if you're cautious, you didn't touch anything. Why you have to wash your hands? Okay. וידוע שהם מהתחים כדי לעשות משקה, צריך נטילת ידיים. Oh, but if there is honey that people utilize for, like you said, tea, or today, what is that famous drink, the 99 cents bottles, New Arizona? Arizona made with honey, ginseng and honey.
best stuff on earth.
Right? ginseng and honey. Okay, נטילת ידיים, אף על פי שמתגן בו אוכל. However, if let's say you took the oil, and your primary use is going to be what? To make liquid with it, make like drinks and everything. So he says no. Even that sometimes you will have again but let's say you have sometimes you're going to use it for food. That honey that you could designate it that you're going to make it mashkim, that you make drinks out of it. Still, if you want to handle it and anytime you want to consume it, you must wash your hands already, because now that's the designation that requires you washing. ועיין בדרך החיים שכתב ואם ואוכל המרקחת על ידי מזלג יש להקל דאין צריך נטילה. However, here comes the cavalry. Says, listen, we eat with spoons, we eat with forks. What are you talking about? Where's
What
the
if you're eating meat? Let's say you're eating meat, shish kebab, right?
Yeah.
Or steak.
And you put
You
honey
take
in
the
it.
bone. No, I'm sorry. Ask a side question.
Side
What if
question.
the bone of the steak?
Yeah.
The bone is left. The meat on the bone. You wanna
so?
get the meat. You gotta wash your hands.
No, why? Meat is not part of the 7 mashkim, it's the liquids.
What about if the meat is inside the soup and you take it out? Is it a problem?
Okay, yes, of course. Your hands.
Wow.
Your hands, you're touching water. Anytime you're coming with that has not anything to do with food, you must wash your hands.
But if I take a spoon or I take like a...
No problem. That's exactly what you said. If you're one of those guys,
But if I took the bone, there's meat on the bone, and I want to dip it in the sauce.
yes. Now you're coming in contact with liquid.
Sauce is not one of those.
No, sauce is made out of water. What else is made out of? Say it's talking about soup. We continue with soup.
Rabbi, it's mixed with other things.
Yeah, but it's water. No? There's water there. What's the question? You have
What do
water,
you do? You're in the middle of Seudah. You're in the middle.
So why should you have to wash your hands? You washed your hands already.
Let's say you didn't wash your hands. I'm not saying.
Okay. So we already said.
Having meat in the
We already said that we are not allowed, advisable not to eat anything until you rinse your hands and wash it, right? So now that you know if you're going to be eating any of those liquids in the middle of the meal, you should wash your hands without bracha. This is exactly what we're talking about. Exactly, Rab Zohar, we're talking about. You're coming to the meal, you should wash your hands 6 times like you would do out of the bathroom to remove the impurities, and now you eat.
So it's better anyhow, like generally, like before you eat, just like to wash your hands.
That's the rule in my house. Everybody, wherever you came from, go wash your hands. That's the rule.
It's a 30-second investment.
Yeah.
You don't have to worry about it.
Exactly.
וכל זה
Calculate.
כמרקחת המתוגננת בדבש, אבל המתוגננת בצוקר אין צריך נטילה לכולי עלמא. This is all we're talking about, what? That people are boiling oil. They put inside the oil and they boil stuff. What about sugar? You melted sugar or made a syrup out of it, right? Now that you're dipping apple into that or whatever, it says there you don't need to wash at all. Because it's sugar.
Rabbi, if you're washing without, let's say you're washing without a cup, b'diavad, you okay?
Yes. Any form of washing, whatever the form of washing is allowed, you wash it away, no problem, right? The law have a mashkin. Now, what about why is sugar not a problem? Because sugar, liquid, even the syrup, it's not. It's really what's his name? It's hardened and then you make it soft. So now there's this Matzliach here. Read this Rabbi Abraham number 8.
Number 8. Okay. Anotel?
No, number 8. Ish Matzliach.
On the right.
You give me like to read like the smallest thing.
Oh, מחילה.
דאם בישלו אותו במים, יש לו תורת משקה, ואין להלן.
Okay, so now what are we talking about here? So he says that once anything that was cooked, he says, I don't understand, אם בשלו אותו במים, יש לו תורת משקה. What are you cooking in water? So you cooked the apple, and then you dipped it into the sugar.
No.
Right? You made the apple soft, and then you dip it in the sugar. Many things you do that, right? You make it into something soft, then you dip it into sugar, and now you have sugar crust on top of it. So when you eat, it's softened. So he says over here, since it would whatever come close, whatever come in contact with water requires like washing your hands anyway.
Where's there water there?
When you cook that item that before you dipped in the sugar, whatever that item was, that now it's dry, right? You cooked it, now you dried it. Apple would be dry, and then you would dip it into the sugar or candy or chocolate, and now it's soft right inside. It's very. I don't understand these people, right? They cook. They take an apple and they just dip it into the sugar and here, enjoy it. I mean, you ever tried it? Break your teeth. What? What is that? No, you don't. The way we did it, I remember, put it in the oven.
Just dip it in the sugar.
Yeah. No, they would actually bake an apple.
Yeah.
You would bake an apple and then dip it in the sugar. So now it's soft. It's durable. Or here he says if it was cooked, the apple, and now you came after the dipping with the sugar, you're gonna say, hey, wait, the sugar it doesn't have to require washing hands. Not a still problem. Why? Because now you're gonna eat that apple that was washed with water, and I guess it requires you to wash your hands. That's Kaf HaChaim. Let's see one more halacha quickly. Yeah, one line. Okay, Tet Zayin, Sheben. What about oil? Hainu Shemen Zayit. Tet Zayin, Tet Vav, sorry. Shemen Zayit, it has to be which one? It has to be olive oil. Only olive oil. Umashma Desha Shmanim Enam Bichlal Mashkeh. So now, again, that's what usual people eat, I guess, with their hands, and they get involved with olive oil, with salads, and the whole zach. There, we will require you to wash hands, but any other oil, not. Bezat Hashem tomorrow, 5:15. Bezat Hashem here at the Midrash Hakadosh David Chai. Every hopefully now because of the early Arvit, and we'll move up. I guess with the time, every time they move up, we'll move up. If they move 5 minutes, we'll move 5 minutes earlier.
Rabbi,
Later, 10 minutes.
I can do 5:20.
Baruch Adonai Leolam. Amen.
5:20, I should be able to make it better.
5:20. Let's go. 5:20. 5:20. B'shat Onos Lachat.
30 minutes.
30 minutes. Shabbat. Have a good night, gentlemen. Enjoy.